Hi, I hope you're enjoying this little series on developed sight reading. I know that there can be a lot of frustration here, but there may be some frustration for me when I try and play through this because I haven't looked at it for a while, but let's see how I do. This is number 23 in the developed sight reading book by Gaston Dufresne and Roger Voisin, who some of you may know well as one of the former trumpet players of the BSO. So this one's a little different because it gives you some character right at the beginning. It says allegro, which means a cheerful tempo, shall we say. And then deciso, which is not about cheese. It means simply decisive. So that gives you an idea of, the kind of energy that you should be using when you play this. Let's see how I do. And then we'll go back and pick up the pieces if necessary. Played one wrong note in a 3/8 bar. I'm sure you noticed that, those of you who are paying attention. And that's because I got a little overloaded. I'm kind of managing way too many things as I'm going through there. So this is, it's kind of like putting together a puzzle. We talked about this before, taking something apart and putting it back together again. That's very challenging. It's the linking things into one thing that you can hear that makes everything work. So if I stay in my musical mind and I'm not sight reading, then it's way easier to play. The trick to being a good sight reader, by the way, is you're translating what you see on the page into musical sound and meaning instantaneously. So as you see it, you're hearing it in your mind, and you must hear it in your mind before you play it. Otherwise, you're just kind of shooting blindly in the dark and hoping that you hit something. So we're trying to get as refined as we can with this, and he's not making it easy for us. Mr. Voisin was a rather mischievous character, and that comes out in some of these compositions. So not only do you have the syncopation, which is quite obvious, and I think by now you know how to practice that as a separate entity without worrying about the pitch or the dynamics or the articulations or anything, just the rhythm by itself. That's a great way to practice it, but there are some things that will help you with these real tricky syncopations. And one thing, which I'm sure I've probably mentioned before, but I find it to be necessary, is that you need to sustain notes for full value when that's indicated and release them rhythmically. So where's a good example of that? Oh yeah, there's one. Second line, third bar of the second line. That's a half note. And half note B. And so if I play through, I'm going to play from the beginning to that spot and then show you what I mean. I'm going to conduct it. Oh, I played a wrong note. Didn't look at the key signature. I looked at, it looks like an E, but I didn't look at the key signature. Now that's really important. That goes way back to childhood. Because most of us, we're looking at notes, but we're not so much paying attention to the key signature. So I saw a fourth space E, but wasn't aware that it was an E flat. Now that can take anybody by surprise, especially when you've been doing it since childhood. So when you notice something like that, stop And because of the way I'm set up here photographically, I'm looking into the light, so I can't see very well. That's my excuse. See the key signature and be playing in that key. If that's if that's something you can do, think and hear in that key. That way you can't miss the note. Here we go. One more try. So you see how I gave a big beat? Now I don't have to hold it rudely or ungraciously, but I do have to release it on purpose. So I might play it. Now that's kind of straight and pushed all the way to the wrist. Not very graceful. Not much of a shape, not very musical. However, I don't have to do that. But I do need to know where I'm releasing it. That's my whole point. So, this has got some fun stuff in it. It is annoying, like they all are, but it's got some fun stuff in it. That's a fun little syncopation that immediately goes to a dolce. I'll show you that in a second, but do you see how I was enjoying the release that time? And I released it, I tapered the release. Why? Oh, well, these things need to make musical sense to you. They need to make musical sense to you. So if you have a sense of taste from listening to really good players play, which I strongly recommend that you do, if you listen closely enough, you're going to pick up these things automatically. And that's a great way to practice. It's one of the best ways to feed your practice. You're feeding your kind of library of awareness of musical things. And it doesn't matter what kind of music you're listening to. A friend of mine, hi Manfred, when you see this eventually, who's from Austria and spent a considerable amount of time in India studying Indian music, Indian classical music. If you listen to that kind of music, it's very different than what we're used to. And to me, it's fascinating. It's still music. It's sound moving through time. And time is an incredibly important element in Indian classical music. And you can learn something by listening to it. So it can be, you can be listening to pop music, you can be listening to Taylor Swift or, the Dave Matthews Band, or you can be listening to jazz. You can listen to classic jazz. You can listen to, Miles, Bitches Brew, or, anybody you can think of. Louis Armstrong, different style. That's what you want to be doing. Now, what style should this be? Well, it's what you bring to it. It says decisive, okay. But then it goes from decisive to lighter and then kind of dolce. So you have to be the judge. And to me, that's the fun. It's trying to hear what the music wants to do. It's particularly difficult with these because they're written so kind of randomly, so to speak, to catch you off guard. Let me do that release once more for you, and then play with the syncopation, and then go into piano dolce. And then I think I should probably give you some time to go practice, because there are enough challenges in this to keep most people busy for a little while. Okay. So all those markings that are in there, the dynamics, the various articulation markings, even the way it's composed itself, I get the feeling that somewhere behind all the complications, the composers are thinking musically. They're thinking about the attitude, the character, the mood that's conveyed through the music. And as you listen to this, it's a constantly changing mood. It's changing harmonically, it's changing in terms of the style, and that's what makes these fun to play. So if you play just notes, you're not going to get a lot of pleasure out of this, but if you try and find the music, now you're onto something. Always look for the music. Okay, time to go practice, both you and me, and I'll see you next time around. Have a great day. Bye-bye.